The forest hummed as twilight folded over the world, and a trembling wind brushed through the hollow trees. Lila, Pip, and Bruno sensed something shifting, a rhythm in the air that didn't belong to any season. The storm clouds gathered without rain, the leaves shimmered with silver veins, and even the river began to whisper their names. Bruno tightened his grip on his lantern, its flame flickering like a heartbeat. Lila's eyes caught faint glows beneath the soil, like words buried in light. Pip laughed nervously, pretending not to be afraid, but his voice cracked when the ground rumbled. Somewhere beyond the dark hills, a howl tore through the dusk, long, heavy, almost human. The sound carried a warning older than fear itself. Lila whispered, "The wolf isn't coming. He's already here." But the question that lingered, if magic was returning, whose side was it truly on? When the storm broke, the world felt heavier. The air itself shimmered, as if carrying whispers of ancient spells. Bruno led them back to his brick home, the only solid thing in a forest now pulsing with strange energy. Inside, the lantern light bent and twisted, forming faint shapes in the shadows. Pip joked weakly, calling it ghost wind. But Lila's silence spoke louder than fear. Her eyes lingered on her compass. It kept glowing, faint and stubborn, pointing toward the forest's heart. Something wanted to be found. Something older than the wolf. Perhaps older than magic itself. Outside, the wind spoke again. Low, guttural, ancient. Bruno bolted the door, but they all felt it. The house trembled, as if the forest itself pressed against the walls. In the corner, the compass spun wildly, and every time it pointed north, faint whispers followed. Pip stepped forward, eyes narrowed, listening. A shape flickered in the window. Not the wolf, but something else, watching. The whisper grew into a faint song, haunting yet familiar. Lila followed its rhythm, recognizing words she didn't know she knew. When fear takes form, light must listen. She murmured them aloud, and the compass stopped spinning. A line of light drew itself across the floor, forming a path through the forest beyond the window. Outside, the wind stopped. The silence that followed was worse than thunder. The forest shimmered faintly, alive with breath. The path glowed deeper into the trees, and for a heartbeat, they saw the wolf's reflection on the window, not sneering, not snarling, but watching. Lila whispered, "He's waiting for us to follow." And for the first time, the wolf smiled. The next dawn came pale and hollow, as if the sun itself feared to rise. Mist blanketed the valley, curling through the trees like smoke from a sleeping giant. The pigs stood at the edge of the forest, following the glowing path Lila had awakened. Every step echoed with whispers beneath the soil, the voices of old spells that once guarded these woods. Pip pressed forward with restless courage. Bruno scanned the shadows for movement, and Lila's compass trembled in her hand, pointing toward a ruin bathed in faint light. Then came the laugh, soft, cold, impossibly close. The wolf's voice drifted through the fog, gentle like a lullaby, yet sharp enough to cut through bone. "You think walls will save you," he murmured. "I built mine from fear too." And the forest around them began to move. The forest came alive. Branches bent, shadows stretched, and roots shifted underfoot. Pip swung his staff at nothing, sparks flying from the ground where it struck. Lila's eyes widened as ghostly runes flared around them, forming a circle of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Bruno shouted for them to stay together, but the air split with a sharp crack. The world blurred, and suddenly, they were not standing beside each other anymore. Lila found herself in a clearing, the air humming with strange warmth. Trees whispered her name in soft voices, coaxing her toward a pool of still water. She saw her reflection, but it wasn't her face. It was her fears, her doubts, her belief that she wasn't brave enough to protect her brothers. The wolf's voice echoed from the water. gentle but cruel. Magic is born from fear, he said. What do you think created me? Elsewhere, Pip wandered through a mirrored maze of trees, each reflection showing moments he regretted. Running from danger, leaving others behind, pretending he wasn't afraid. Every version of him whispered, "You can't protect them." He clenched his fists and shouted into the void, "I can try!" The forest stilled, and the mirrors shattered into petals of light. Bruno, alone in a dark hollow, found himself face to face with his own creation. A crumbling version of his brick house, walls cracked and bleeding light. The wolf silhouette stood within, whispering, "You build walls to hide behind, not to live within." Bruno took a step forward, lantern shaking, and whispered back, "Then I'll build something that stands with others." The illusion faded, replaced by the faint glow of Lila's compass in the distance. For the first time, he smiled. The forest quieted after the illusions faded. The siblings found each other again at the heart of the woods, where a ring of ancient stones surrounded a single twisted tree. Its bark shimmered faintly, alive with symbols that pulsed like breathing light. Lila's compass stopped spinning and pointed directly at the roots. Pip knelt, brushing away fallen leaves, revealing a golden glint buried beneath the soil. Bruno helped lift it free. A scroll sealed in crystal, humming with a warmth that felt alive. "It's magic," Lila whispered, "but not his kind." The air thickened. The tree groaned, and whispers filled their minds. The wolf's voice echoed faintly. "You found what I lost," and for the first time the forest trembled with something that wasn't fear. It was awakening. When Lila touched the scroll, symbols bloomed in the air like fireflies. The words rearranged themselves, weaving a message written in light. Bruno read it slowly. 3 hearts. 1 spell. Built from courage, creation, and faith. Pip laughed uncertainly. "We've got 1.5 of those." The scroll's glow pulsed, almost as if it understood. The siblings shared a look, a mix of awe and disbelief. Before Lila's voice trembled, "Maybe this is what the wolf was after all along." A sudden wind swept through the clearing, scattering the light into the trees. The runes etched themselves across trunks, stones, and sky. Lila's heart raced as she realized the forest itself was responding to the scroll, awakening from centuries of slumber. Pip shielded his face as light poured through the air like rain. Bruno whispered, "It's alive." Then, in the center of the circle, the earth cracked open, revealing stairs carved from glowing stone, leading deep below. They descended carefully, the air growing warmer, filled with the scent of ancient magic and rain-soaked earth. The walls shimmered with carvings showing creatures long forgotten, wolves and pigs standing side by side beneath a sun of flame. At the bottom, they found a circular chamber with a stone altar and the same glowing runes carved into the floor. The scroll hovered above it, unrolling itself ready to be read. Lila placed her hand over the glowing runes, and the scroll began to sing, a melody without words, filled with memories that weren't theirs. Images of the past flooded their minds, a time when the wolf had been a guardian of magic, protecting the balance between wild and home. But greed and fear twisted him, binding his soul to hunger and shadow. Tears welled in Lila's eyes as the vision faded. "He wasn't always the monster," she whispered. Bruno looked up toward the stairway's light. "Then maybe we can save him." The scroll's glow brightened in agreement. Back within the safety of Bruno's brick house, the siblings laid the glowing scroll across the wooden table. Its light pulsed with each beat of their hearts. Lila read aloud the symbols, her voice trembling yet steady, as Pip gathered herbs and crystals they had collected from the forest, and Bruno began sketching diagrams in chalk on the floor. The air grew thick with the scent of moss and candle smoke. The scroll's message was clear. Their strength was not in their walls, but in what they could create together. Lila whispered, "We'll build something that no storm or shadow can break." Bruno nodded, his eyes softening, and Pip grinned. For the first time, the forest outside seemed to listen rather than threaten. As night deepened, their plan began to take shape. They called it the Mirror of Truth, a spellbound trap made not to harm the wolf, but to show him what he had become. Lila crafted the framework from moonlit branches. Pip added the energy of courage by etching his promise into the surface, and Bruno infused the foundation with symbols of unity. The magic wove itself through their work like living thread, humming with their combined heartbeat. By midnight, the room shimmered with unfinished magic. The scroll pulsed faster, symbols spinning into the air like fireflies. Lila's voice faltered as exhaustion set in, but Bruno's steady hand guided her. Pip pressed his palm to the mirror and felt a faint heartbeat beneath it. "It's alive," he murmured. Lila smiled, whispering, "It's hope." Outside, unseen by them, a pair of amber eyes watched through the fogged window. The wolf, silent, studying. The scrolls glowed dimmed as the last rune burned into the mirror. Then silence, heavy, expectant. Lila whispered the final words. "Let truth remember what fear forgot." The mirror shimmered once, twice, then steadied, reflecting not the room, but the stars beyond the roof. The siblings stepped back, breathless. They had made something that transcended their fear, a spell born from love, not vengeance. But far in the distance, the wolf howled, and the windows trembled in answer. The plan was ready by dawn. The mirror rested within a circle of stones outside the brick house, surrounded by protective runes drawn in gold dust. The siblings stood hand in hand as morning light bled through the mist. "He'll come tonight," Bruno said quietly. Pip squeezed their hands. "Then we'll be ready." Lila looked toward the horizon, where the forest glowed faintly, not with menace, but with promise. The wolf's howl rose again, closer this time, echoing through the waking world. The air thrummed with magic, and destiny stirred in the silence that followed. Night descended slowly, thick with mist that moved like a living thing. The pigs waited in silence, hearts steady but wild beneath the rhythm of the forest. The mirror gleamed softly between them, hidden under a veil of silver cloth. The wolf's howl pierced the night, low, mournful, but with a hunger that shook the trees. Lila glanced at her brothers. "Remember," she whispered, "it's not his teeth we fight, it's his pain." The forest grew still. Then, through the fog, the wolf emerged, taller than myth, fur glistening with shadows, eyes burning like embers of sorrow. "You've learned to weave magic," he said, voice echoing like wind through bone. "Now show me what you've made." The wolf stepped closer, his claws cutting faint grooves into the glowing earth. Pip raised his staff, though his hands trembled. Bruno stood firm, but his heartbeat was loud enough to echo. Lila stepped forward, voice soft, yet clear. "You were once a guardian, not a destroyer. We know your curse." The wolf's snarl cracked into a bitter smile. "And yet you built walls," he said. "Walls crumble as I did?" The wind picked up, tearing through branches. Lila reached for the cloth, and the mirror's light began to leak through. The wolf roared, the sound shaking leaves from branches. "You think magic can unmake hunger?" he thundered. Lila's voice wavered, but did not break. "Maybe not," she said, "but it can remember what you were before it began." She pulled away the cloth. Light exploded through the clearing, not blinding, but pure. The mirror's surface shimmered like liquid gold, and when the wolf looked into it, he saw not prey, not power, but his own reflection. Broken, lonely, yearning for the forest he once protected. The wolf stumbled backward, eyes wide with horror and recognition. The black smoke around him writhed, breaking apart into silver dust. His voice softened. "I remember. Before the curse." The mirror's light pulsed once more, showing him running beneath the sun, laughing beside creatures he once swore to protect. Pip lowered his staff, tears streaking through the dirt on his face. Bruno whispered, "He's not our enemy. Not anymore." Lila stepped forward, laying her hand on the mirror's edge, then let him go. The mirror's light flared, enveloping them all in radiance. The wolf's body dissolved into shimmering particles, his last whisper echoing, "Magic remembers kindness." The forest sighed, the air lighter than before. The runes faded from the ground, replaced by fresh shoots of green pushing through the soil. Lila fell to her knees, tears of relief catching. Dawn. Light. Bruno lifted her gently, Pip laughing through his exhaustion. Together they watched as the first sunlight broke through the mist, casting warmth across their faces. The wolf was gone, or perhaps, finally, free. Silence lingered long after the wolf's light faded. The siblings stood within the clearing, the mirror now dim and still. But as the wind brushed through the leaves, faint whispers rose again, not of fear, but of memory. The golden runes on the ground reappeared for a moment, then rearranged themselves into a single glowing symbol. Bruno knelt, tracing it gently. "It's a mark of release," he murmured. Lila's eyes shimmered with tears. He left something behind. The mirror pulsed softly, showing a final image, the wolf smiling beneath sunlight, free of shadow. Then the glass cracked and fell silent. For the first time, the forest exhaled in peace. As they turned to leave, the forest shifted once more, not in threat, but in gratitude. Trees leaned gently, vines parted, and petals rained down from nowhere. Lila looked up, watching light dance across the air. "He's part of it now," she whispered. Pip grinned faintly. "Then maybe he's watching over us." Bruno nodded, guarding like he was meant to. The moment was soft and full, as if the world itself had forgiven its own mistakes. They reached the edge of the forest, where the first hints of morning stretched across the valley. Lila stopped, glancing back one last time. The mist shimmered faintly, forming the outline of the wolf's face for a heartbeat. Kind, gentle, almost human. She smiled through her tears. "Thank you," she whispered. The figure faded, carried away by sunlight. Bruno rested a hand on her shoulder, and Pip slung an arm around them both. Together, they stepped into the new day. As they walked home, the scroll within Lila's bag began to hum again. She pulled it out, its glow no longer fierce but calm. New words appeared on its surface. "Every kindness leaves a door open." Pip tilted his head. "A door to what?" Lila smiled faintly. "To more magic, I think." Bruno chuckled softly. "Then we'd better keep our hearts unlocked." The siblings laughed, their voices mingling with the sound of birds returning to the forest. That night, as stars bloomed over the quiet world, the pigs sat outside their home beneath a blanket of light. The forest hummed softly, no longer a place of danger but of promise. The mirrors, broken fragments, sparkled nearby, now no more than stardust on the grass. Lila traced one piece with her finger and whispered, "Magic remembers kindness." Bruno looked to the sky, "And so will we." The wind stirred, carrying a faint echo, a wolf's gentle howl, not of hunger, but of peace. Days passed, and peace settled like a soft blanket over the valley. The storm scars healed, and laughter returned to the air. Lila wandered through the garden, her hands brushing against new blossoms that shimmered faintly with magic. Pip mended the fences, humming songs of bravery, while Bruno worked on rebuilding their homes, this time with open windows and lighter walls. Every corner seemed touched by unseen kindness. Candles burned brighter, wind chimes sang softer, and even the river hummed a tune that felt like gratitude. The forest no longer whispered warnings but lullabies. Lila gazed at the horizon, feeling the wolf's presence within the breeze. "He's part of the story now," she murmured. "And so are we? As evening neared, the siblings gathered outside, their small campfire crackling under twilight. Lila opened the scroll one last time, and words shimmered briefly before fading. "Magic belongs to those who believe in more than themselves," she smiled, rolling it up and placing it gently into a wooden box. Pip leaned back, stretching his arms. "Guess that means us." Bruno nodded, his tone gentle, "and anyone brave enough to care." The last light of day flickered across their faces, 3 hearts that had faced the impossible and turned it into peace. That night, a gentle rain fell, tapping softly on leaves and rooftops. Lila dreamt of the forest, the runes, the mirror, and the wolf's final smile. But in her dream, he wasn't alone. He ran beside other creatures, laughter echoing under the moonlight. When she awoke, the rain had stopped, and moonlight filtered through her window like silver silk. Something shimmered on her table, a single gray feather glowing faintly. She smiled, whispering, "Thank you." At dawn, the 3 siblings stood once more at the forest's edge. The mist rolled gently. Peaceful now. Lila placed the feather at the base of the glowing tree where it had all begun. "For him," she whispered. "For him," she whispered. Pip saluted playfully. "To the guardian who learned to rest," Bruno added softly, "and to the magic that found its way home." As the sun rose, the runes across the bark shimmered briefly, as if smiling. As the sun climbed higher, the siblings walked away from the forest, their laughter drifting on the wind. The air was filled with warmth and promise, not of magic's end, but its beginning. The scroll's runes faded into the morning light, leaving only a faint hum in their hearts. Above, a single silver cloud shaped like a wolf moved across the sky, dissolving into sunlight. Lila whispered to the wind, "Would you still follow if the stars whispered your name?" And the breeze, gentle and knowing, answered with a sigh that felt like forever.